Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is November 4th, 2022. Hopefully, you're having a good one. Hopefully, you're starting the month off well. Hopefully, you had a great October. Mine was, you've listened to it. You've heard the play-by-play week to week. It was good. We are now, top of the next one, November. Um, let's see. I did catch some dubs. I actually got a little promotion at work. We did my review this week. It was nice. It went well. My supervisor, he tells me that my only big problem, he's always told me this is like my Achilles heel, haunted me my entire career at my job. I have terrible attendance, and that's on purpose. Now, sometimes I will get sick, and the way our attendance policy is, as long as you have PTO, you call in, you're fine, you're good to go. But naturally, it's going to affect you on your evaluations. So that's a bit of a bummer. But overall, I got a good evaluation. I think kind of technically it's one of my better ones, but maybe like best. So I'm happy about that. But granted, we've talked about inflation. So I mean, really, even if I was making a wage that was, I don't know, quote unquote good. If I was in my 20s, which, hey, there you go. little salary slip there. I'm not there. I would still be struggling. I'd still be behind. So I'm kind of like, fuck it. It's whatever. I'm always working anyway. I'm always grinding. I'm not saying that like in a cool way, but just saying it like in a factual way. Like we're all going to die one day. Um, but yeah, no, it's been solid. Let's see. I've been sick though. I think that's the bitter part of it. I caught like a cold, and this is like my second cold in 2 months. So, you know what that means? Nature is healing. Because if all the little viruses and stuff are out and about and getting everybody, and I'm getting it like double time, we are really back to normal. Because I was talking about this earlier to a friend, and please don't come for me on this. This is just my thoughts and feelings. I will say, and I don't mean this like, oh, I want to go back to 2020. I just remember 2020 being a highlight in a weird way because everyone was scared. I was scared. So much shit was changing. We were like, practically locked up in our house, quote unquote. We had the quarantine, for a month or so. That was wild. But I just remember that being like my healthiest year. Like, I don't know, like with all the masking, with all the isolation, social distancing, things were just really nice for my immune system. Like no one was touching me, and that was really cool. I think I got sick like one time, uh, but then I noticed 2021. We were back at it. Everyone was way more out. I think I got maybe like two colds or so. Did catch COVID. That was gross. And then this year, oof, it's just been more or less back there. I'm saying now I'm at like three colds. I caught at least COVID another time. I mean, shit. So it hasn't been fun. It hasn't been great on me physically, but I sound and feel a lot better than I did the Patreon episode. So that's good. Yay. Sadly, not too much to report on the food corner. I tried to make this like bagged pork ramen I got from Kroger and like add some stuff to it. I was so disappointed because literally they gave me like half a baseball size of ramen in this like big broth. And I was like, that's not enough. Like, so I tried to add a pack of like ramen noodles, I don't know, like yeah, little packaged ones. It wasn't top ramen, but it was like a similar type of thing. Um, and it was just then it became too much noodles, and it was just a big old mess. But I added some bacon. There was pork in there. It was okay. I don't know, not my favorite thing, but I mean, it really kind of didn't matter, being that I'm sick. Yeah, we've been on a lot of like broth soup patrol kind of thing this week. But let's see. That's more or less wrapping up the personal stuff. We can kind of get into the news. Um, let's see. We usually start with Ukraine and Russia. I I've covered a little bit of this before when we were talking about Yum brands moving out, like the McDonald's. I don't know necessarily if Starbucks is a Yum brand, but they also moved out. Both were replaced, Tasty Period and then Zarbucks, respectively. So it turns out that the next one out the door is KFC. KFC, and I got this from the Insider. KFC is about to disappear in Russia as its new owners rebrand all 1,000 stores as Rostiks, reports say. So, like I said earlier, this kind of follows a trend. Essentially, it's not worth it for them to be in there anymore. So, all of the employees that are currently, at KFC are just going to become Rostiks employees. Let's see what else I wanted to kind of add here, if I can dig. Yeah, let's see. The Venezuelan migrant Rodislav Ordovsky Tanaski Blanco, nicknamed Rostik, founded Rostiks, and its first store opened in Moscow in 1993, according to local media outlet Business District. It rivaled American fast food stores until 2006, per report. So, that's the new boss in charge. That's the new chicken. I hopefully can maybe get the chance to see, maybe if like one of the like YouTubers I watch, or VTubers, I guess you should say, whatever. Maybe they might do some coverage on that. Maybe I can see some food, but who knows? I know Russia's going right in terms of like, I don't know, information. I feel like information is kind of moving. I've definitely feel like I hear enough things. So I was able to see what the Tasty Period looked like, and I've been able to see Zarbucks. So hopefully I can see this. So I can hopefully maybe see if there's an update of whether or not it looks good or not. I mean, obviously they are working with the supplies that they have, and then there's turnover, and then they kind of replace what they were getting with like merchants they can get. Sometimes they get a newer menu in terms of like new stuff. A lot of times they lose a lot, but yeah. Starting off light. Now we're going to get into the heavier stuff. I got this from BBC News. Ukraine war. Power and water supply hit across Ukraine in massive Russian missile strikes. So there were, I believe, 50 that hit. And there were like 44 missiles that were shot down by the Ukrainian like military air defense. So, but essentially this stems from a strike that took place in the Crimean Sea. Let's see, it was a drone strike from Ukraine on its Black Sea fleet. And, this led to Russia saying, all right, we're going to hit y'all up. And they just more or less started aiming, once again, like civilian areas. They aimed at energy, water, like facilities. And I mean, I think they said in Kyiv, 40% of its residents are without water. And 270,000 apartments have no electricity. So, I mean, that's a big blow. I mean, we're in November. The weather's been oddly nicer. I mean, we had a little bit of a cold spell, but it's kind of been nicer. But in Ukraine, not so much. Like, winter is getting in. It's settling in. And, that's a scary thing when you don't have electricity, when you don't have water. Like, that's hell on the people who live there. And, Russia is doing this shit on purpose. They know exactly what they're doing. And, obviously it's a shame that this tit for tat kind of energy is continuing, because it's not a tit for tat. This is Ukraine trying to reclaim their territory. And in response to that, Russia is just bombing and hitting, places that are just super integral to these people to survive, make it to the next year. Let's see, what else did I want to add here before I move to the last Ukraine-Russia bit? Also, this isn't in the article, but from what I'm kind of hearing, like, listening to the BBC podcast, like global news stuff, it does kind of seem that maybe like a big altercation of sorts, battle, is going to take place in Kherson. It seems to be like kind of the last big area that is being held firmly by Russia. You can say, I mean, they still have control of Zaporizhia, like the nuclear facility, which I heard went without power again. They're running on diesel again, so that's scary. But gosh, I lost my train of thought. My brain is clicking off. But essentially, from what I've been hearing from the situation in Kherson, Russia has been warning civilians of like, oh my gosh, there's gonna be like a dirty bomb thing. There's gonna be a situation where there's gonna be a lot of violence and death, and you guys gotta get out of here. And they're using that as provocation to, more or less clear the streets and have people, shipped off to Russia, and more or less fortifying the area, or more or less getting it ready for what's to come. And I mean, that puts Ukraine in a very sticky situation because they want to take back the area, but you don't want to be fighting house to house, street to street, leveling the area to get it back. Whereas Russia, they're like, yeah, we're going to hold this down. We want to make you have to fight for it. But they don't really care at the end of the day. This isn't their land. They know it. This is land that they've taken. So these are all developments I imagine are going to start unfolding, and maybe we'll have more news on it. But that was more or less what I had for those two things. Like I said, there's one more. Got this from Reuters. Exclusive. Russia seeks sanctions exemptions for state bank in Ukraine deal talks, Russia says. A Ukraine grain deal talks. Sources. Let me reread that. I'm sorry, guys. Exclusive. Russia seeks exemptions for state bank and Ukraine grain deal talks. Sources. That's better, but it's still a weird sentence to say for a headline. But thank you, Reuters. Now, essentially, I got this was kind of like the hottest one off the press, I should say, from it's today. But Russia had broken off from the grain deal that was set to allow Ukraine to ship out grain, and then also for, I believe, fertilizer to be like shipped out as well. So this is a win-win for both sides, for Russia and Ukraine. But with, the Black Sea shit, with the Black Sea fleet, Russia like pulled out. They were like, no way, this isn't cool. We're not okay with this. Fuck y'all. We ain't cooperating. And they said, you're on your own, which is like really scary because essentially they're saying, well, maybe we might fuck with y'all, and none of this grain gets anywhere. But President of Turkey, Erdogan, I don't know his full name at the ready right now, but essentially, he mediated, and he's saying like, hey, this deal is going to still keep going. We're going to keep grain going. And Russia did come back to the table, but they are saying that this is some stipulations that they need. And essentially they want more. It sounds like, from what I'm gleaning from this article, that they want a loosening of the sanctions in this regard, at least in terms of the fertilizer. And I think the grain on their end. So that way they're not being hit as hard and they're making a little bit more money on it. Now, it seems like on paper, the West is not saying like, oh, we're okay with that, so we want. But they are saying like, hey, we do want this deal to go through. We do want this grain shipment to work. We don't want to infringe on food on either side. So it looks like maybe the banks might be allowed to kind of get in and make something work so that Russia isn't getting hit as hard, and therefore they're happy. Once again, this is kind of what I'm gleaning from the article. But yeah, definitely a development I wanted to cover. Let me get a drink of water real quick. My throat is already dry. Oh boy. Okay. Whew. Got this from Yahoo News and the Associated Press. Netanyahu set to return to power in Israel after Prime Minister concedes. So, the BB is back. Benjamin Netanyahu is he is back and more nationalist. He's righter than ever. I shouldn't be laughing. It's very stressful. It's very upsetting to hear this shit, honestly. Especially as I get into it. but his Luke I can't pronounce this. I'm sorry. Likud party, um, and its ultranationalist religious partners captured a solid majority in Israel's Knesset, or their parliament. So, I mean, essentially, you're like, okay, that sucks, but it's not like, what is it, Lapid was, a super cool guy. It's not like, his coalition or whatever was doing anything super great, especially when we're talking about the Palestinian people, the other people who are here, who are supposed to be part of this whole, two-state, whatever thing. Sorry, I'm kind of crumbling here. But essentially, he's in power. But like I said, he is backed by an ultra-nationalist coalition that he took to kind of get the majority he needed. Let's see if I can find the guy who really upsets me here in this conversation. Who I mean, obviously Netanyahu already fucks me up the wrong way. If you've heard any of our previous episodes, this is a guy who has just reckless abandon when it comes to the Palestinian and Arab people. He only cares about, quote unquote Israel, the Jewish people. That's it. And I mean, obviously, I understand the situation. You're coming to, your homeland from your perspective, and your people are here, and you want to protect them. You don't want to see any harm done to them. But at the same time, we've covered a lot of stories just on this podcast alone, just in a small span of time, that, I mean, to me, are just clear cut. Like, you are oppressing the Palestinian people. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But this Itamar Ben Gvir guy, I mean, this dude is a hard customer. Let's see. He's built a career on confrontation with Palestinians and espouses anti-Arab views that were once largely confined as to an extremist fringe. So, I mean, this guy, walks around with a pistol. He is called Arab lawmakers terrorists and has called for their deportation. Also, it definitely is going to be a push of anti-LGBTQ, just, I imagine, policies. I also think, he's, the right-hand man, but essentially, he wants to, be in charge of the police. And there's another guy who wants to be in charge of, the defense ministry. And neither of these guys are cool dudes. They're both pretty not great. But here's a story that really just made me jump out of my skin for a second. Ben Gvir says he wants to end Palestinian autonomy in parts of the occupied West Bank and maintain Israel's occupation over Palestinians, now in its 56th year, indefinitely. Until recently, he hung a photo in his home of a Jewish militant who murdered 29 Palestinian worshippers in a 1994 mosque shooting in the West Bank. So, that's gruesome. I don't care what your opinion is on it, whether you view Israel should have the state or not, what are your thoughts on Palestinian oppression or their terrorism, quote unquote, whatever. Hearing some shit like that should stop and make you say, what the fuck, man? Why are you glorifying that moment? Even if you fully believe in this shit, that should not be something you're revering as yeah, what a great day. What a cool moment. I had to keep that snapshot. That snapshot keeps me going, dude. That's like seeing my kids in the picture. That threw me off. That really fucked me up, and I don't like it. Other thing I don't like, they kind of talk about some other people who kind of give Benjamin Netanyahu some props. Giorgia Meloni, Italy's new far-right premier, congratulated him via Twitter. Oh, excuse me. Ready to strengthen our friendship and our bilateral relations to better face our common challenges. And now I'm going to shift to a quick tangent here. Sorry about it. But on Meloni, I heard this week that her and her party have been clamping down on raves in Italy for reasons of it's a public nuisance, disturbance, So they just wanted to clamp down on it. No good. Also, though, they've been allowing more or less, alt-right, nationalist rallies, like I think at Mussolini's grave. So that's fun. That's cute. Hella balanced. Awesome. And then also Hungary's nationalist Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who is, a Hungarian Donald Trump. Like, I know that gets thrown around a lot, and I'm going to use that reference again later in the next bump. But he's definitely one of the guys who I would say walks the walk and talks the talk. And I say that to the point of this man has been at Republican conventions, and he's held, he's held the convention in his country and led it, been the keynote speaker. And I mean, he's hitting all the notes, saying all the phrases, he's in the blood, if you will. But let's see. So yeah, I mean, a lot of talks of religious Zionism. It's definitely something that, and this is stated in the article, that obviously we have a strong relationship, America and Israel. That's just a founded thing. We were a big push to get them to have a country. So it's we are supposed to have a separate but equal kind of thing going there between Palestine and Israel. But often it's just one of those things where we kind of head past the situation and say, okay, it's fine. We're doing our best. We're getting there. We're really working towards it. But we're not. This conflict has been ongoing, and it's still going to keep going on. In terms of the Palestinian response, it's not really stated here, but from what I've heard, it's just more or less shrug emoji. They're like, yeah, we're not surprised that you guys got worse. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some shit that's popping off. Like I said, though, Lapid was not doing much. The guy who was also leading beforehand, I can't remember his name. Sorry, whatever. But, I mean, the oppression just seems to keep rolling on. And that, to me, is the sad part. I completely understand Israel needing to be a state and having a nation and having their own, autonomy, with all the shit that they've been through. But I don't feel like it gives you the right to oppress another group of people who were there when you came and started occupying it. Whether or not you want to go through history and say who got what, where, spiritually, whatever, who died, whatever, Jesus, this guy, that guy, I don't know. I don't care. I actually know Jesus is not involved. I know. So please, just community, don't come for me on that part. I know. But it's just weird, man. It's sad. It's sad and weird. And it's one of those things where I hate it that when you look at the world and you just see how conservative it is, and how we could just be so much better if we could just work together across the world. You know what I mean? I think about this a lot since I got into this podcast, even more. Utopia is something that technically is a possibility, but the way the system is, it just, no one's no, we need to make more money. We need to make more for us. And when we mean the us, it's everyone at the top, everyone at the 1%, and you just don't care about anyone else, man. And you make these weird religious moral arguments about this, that, and the third. And it's just man, I just wish that we could all be people, and we could all eat and live and have homes and not have to worry if we're going to get blown up or not. So I'm saying all this, I'm going into a dirge. But I'm gonna hit my smoky breaky, my little break. Oh, this is an opinion one. Sorry, the next one I'm using as an opinion. It's an opinion article, but I'm just gonna kind of riff off of it. Sorry about that. Some of these articles are a little bit hard to find this weekend, but we're doing our best. Ooh. Okay. We're back. The next one I got from MSNBC. Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro may have wanted to pull a Donald Trump. Here's why he couldn't. So this is my little bit of coverage on the Brazil presidential election. Essentially, Bolsonaro didn't win. Lula won. So, hell yeah. We're happy to hear that. We're happy to see that. Now, Bolsonaro, once again, some scans coverage I've done, but essentially, he was the Trump of the tropics. And he was also a man like Viktor Orban who walked the walk and talked the talk. He came from a military background. Part of the reason why he was elected. Kind of came in the vacuum of Lula, who was the person before him, the president before him. Let's see, let me get his whole name right. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Essentially, both of these guys were populist presidents. Both were running on that kind of ticket. I will say, though, in Lula's situation, I feel like the things he was doing and supporting is just, once again, I mean, it's left. It's leftist tendencies I'm going to gravitate to. You know that. If you're listening to this podcast, that's just what I'm about. Like, it's not new. But definitely he had more ideas that were saying, like, hey, let's stop deforestation. Like, let's make that not happen. Whereas, like, Bolsonaro was like, I want Brazil to move to the future. I want Brazil to be more industrialized. And he's saying that at the cost of indigenous people who are living in the Amazon and the Amazon itself and the climate, because the Amazon is super integral to the climate and our shit is already fucked up. So making that worse is making everything worse. All for money, all for greed. It's not good. Now with Lula, something I learned, listening, researching, he had power, was in power, but there was corruption in his, his government. Now, some has been like a little bit of alleged in terms of like him specifically, because he gets put on charges of corruption, is actually put in jail. But later, his conviction is thrown out and not necessarily like done, but they're saying, hey, like these technicalities are real. We have to like observe this. He needs to be let out, and it needs to be, taken from his record that he is, was convicted of this. So he was allowed to run again, and he did, and he fucking won. So, ole, 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 ola, lula, lula. I wanted to sing that even though I'm sick, but we did it. So that's cool. I'm stoked about that. It was a very narrow margin. 2 million votes were the difference. Now, that's already edgy. That's already crazy. But like I said, Trump of the tropics, Bolsonaro, he was talking that shit hard. He was saying, look, this is already shady. This shouldn't even be close. Because in the polls, Lula was way ahead. Way ahead. Essentially, there was other parties and groups and coalitions and stuff that were involved here. But like Lula was way ahead, at least in the polls. But Bolsonaro is saying that's bullshit. Like he's saying in these rallies and stuff, he's like, look at all you guys. Look at you. You're all here. You're all here for me. You all are here to come out and vote for me. There's no way that Lula's going to win this shit. It's impossible. And if he does win it, there's something wrong here. It was rigged. He was already calling fraud in advance. There was already like a lot of talk of corruption and in terms of like voter fraud. So in order to like combat that, essentially Brazil has moved to an all electric situation. So electric ballots. Now, Bolsonaro is already saying, well, that's fucked up then, because how can we check it? What if there's like a hack? What if there's like, yada, 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 this, that, and the third. So he's just doing the classic fucking thing. And I mean, shit, we're doing our midterms here. That is rampant. Everyone is running off of Donald Trump's playbook on the conservative end, on the right. And it's very scary. It's scary, and it's a little bit of a tangent here, but it's scary to have people watching you at the ballot box, sitting there in balaclavas with their cell phones out, because in some places in America right now, that's happening. That's a thing. Like, and on their end, they're saying, hey, we're trying to make sure that there's an honest election. But, like, literally, that's illegal. Like, you cannot do that to that extent. You're allowed to, I guess, be there, but with the intent to record someone and things like that, that's a no-no. You can't do that. But these people are doing their damnedest to try so that they can harass people that they think are bad actors or whatever, a.k.a. the liberals, the left. And, I mean, these dudes are active. And honestly, bringing it back to, Brazil, that shit's ongoing here. I don't have an article pulled up. We can kind of see we're freestyling a little bit here. But there were roadblocks put up after Lula won by Bolsonaro supporters. And these guys are no different, once again, than the people in America. They're like, this is rigged. This isn't real. And Bolsonaro, he really did try to LARP so hard. He really did try to rep the energy of Donald Trump. He channeled him. He didn't say die. He didn't say I lost. But, excuse me. It's coming out. Milwaukee's best. But he tried to say, excuse me. There's the last one. I'm trying to think. I lost my train of thought in those burps. He was going to say nothing. That was the goal. He was going to, fight it, take it to whatever courts, do whatever. Shit. Like I said, the people who are supporting him were putting up roadblocks, trying to just clog the thoroughfare, roadways, whatever. Crazy ass shit. And that's still going on. But now Bolsonaro has kind of come down because he looked around and said, oh shit, people are already saying Lula won, in government. And if these people are already supporting the transition of power, what the fuck can I do? I'm isolated in this regard. But like I said, back to Bolsonaro supporters, they're calling for Bolsonaro to intervene with the military, or just the military to intervene. This is crazy. Stop it. And it's like, no, you guys are wilding out and you need to relax. It is insane that this has become the narrative worldwide, that if you lose, you can just say it's fake. You can just say it's fucking fake. Once again, I'm zigzagging. I'm jibber-jabbing. But what is her name? Carrie Lake. I was going to say Ricky Lake, and I'm so glad I didn't. But Carrie Lake, she is running for a position, I believe, in Arizona or Arkansas, one of the ones today. But, I mean, she's holding fast to this logic. People have asked her, so what's going to happen if you won? She's like, well, she kind of gives a little bit of a pause, but she has an answer. She's like, I mean, I'm going to, say that it worked. But it's but if you lost and it's fake, and it's more or less yes. And her supporters are backing it. It's crazy how this logic is just so viral to people. And people play team sports so hard that they're willing to fight the process. I remember when Hillary Clinton lost, I didn't go, well, this is rigged. Donald Trump rigged the game. No, he just won. He just did the populist thing and it worked out for him. So yeah, I mean, now granted, Lula did win, but I think it's going to be a struggle for him to get the coalition, kind of to bring it full circle a little bit to the Netanyahu thing. He was able to get back in power, and he's back in power with a vengeance because he has a coalition majority. So that's important. I mean, granted, it's not the full thing, but with Bolsonaro, or with Lula, it's different. He's going to have to fight tooth and nail to get the numbers he needs to get things going, to keep government flowing the way, it should, to get his policies and stuff that he wants to enact going. But like I said, a lot of people have said good things about Lula from what I've heard. Hopefully that wasn't just cherry picked stuff, but I don't know. I am optimistic about that, even though it's not anything that has to do with me. I definitely, like I said, doing this podcast, I feel like it gives me a chance to kind of look at things from a bird's eye sometimes. And like I said, even though I feel like this world is very socially conservative these days, it gives me hope that there are people out there who are pushing to make that change, even if it's by narrow margins at times. the hope is that like we can keep fighting and push the shit over, you know? So maybe that's the good news for this week. But at this point in the podcast, it's pretty much over. So thanks for sticking around. You're a champ. You're a real one. And it is the top of the month. So, you know what that means? It's a newsy roll call, baby. It's a short list, of course, but it's a dynamic duo. I love you guys. You're my newsies. Stephanie Renee. Thank you. You're a queen. Denver McIntosh. Thank you, sir. You're a king. You know that. Obviously both these guys are actually my friends, so it's always dope to like interact with them online, but then also know that they're supporting me. It makes me feel really warm and fuzzy. And if you would like to give me that warm and fuzzy feeling, you can via Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. You don't just get a shout out once a month. You also get access to the bonus episodes I try to do. A little extra content. I keep it pretty loose on the free episodes, but I get a little looser sometimes. I talk about a little bit more gossipy stuff, rag stuff. But, every once in a while I will do some updates. I actually did talk about David DePappy on there, the Paul Pelosi conspiracy shit. I had to get it out. Figured that was the best place kind of for the timing and the load for this weekend. You also get Discord access if you'd like to use that. And what else is there? That's more or less it. I kind of did this a little bit backwards this time. But let's see. Free way to interact with me. Hit me up. Give feedback. gmail.com/Isaiah News 1. You can find me on there. Hit me up there. You can find me on pretty much all the socials. I'm on Facebook still. Maybe not the metaverse, but I'm on Facebook. The 2D. Twitter. It's on fire, but I'm dancing in it. And Instagram. You can see the little thumbnail pictures and stuff like that. I have a messenger if you want to use that, I guess. Whatever. I don't know. You can comment. Forget about it. Because all I get is spam bops on there. It's the fucking saddest. But, yeah. That's more or less it for the episode. But hopefully, I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.